Hi everyone, this is Suveda from Zephyr Lake Carmelite Mission. I just returned from Italy after participating in the International Lake Carmelite gathering that happens every 6 years. And it's my very first time attending this gathering, and it was such a joyful experience to meet so many Lake Carmelites from around the world and to be renewed in my vocation to Carmel. And all the trials and troubles of life seem to melt away. Of course, the problems don't go away, but it does appear to have melted away, and the intensity or the burden of them feels so much lighter when we are in the presence of wonderful Carmelites, wonderful leaders, the Prior General, his delegates, all of them who fill us with confidence and encourage us in our ministries, our apostolates, our missions. So thanks be to God. So today I'm continuing on The Dark Night by St. John of the Cross. On that series, we are on book 2. And today I will be giving my reflections on chapters 19 and 20. In these two chapters, St. John of the Cross speaks of the secret ladder of contemplation. It is a mystical ladder of divine love by which the soul ascends to God. And he speaks of the 10 rungs of the ladder that a soul journeys through in order to ascend to God. So in the first step, the soul becomes sick with love for God. So this sickness is a longing for God himself, and also a loss of appetite for the things of this world. So the person is no longer able to find comfort or rest or consolation or satisfaction in anything to do with this life and languishes for God alone. And he says this sickness does not end in death, for this sickness is for the glory of God. In the second step, the soul searches for God unceasingly in all its thoughts, in all the things, in all its conversations, in all its businesses, it's searching for God. And in the third step, the soul is filled with fervor to perform holy works out of love for God, and often feels that these works are inadequate to express its love for God. The soul is sorrowful, for it feels that these works are too few and the time spent in them to serve God too little. And so the soul in this stage is humble, and it thinks highly of others and rarely criticizes others. On the fourth rung of the ladder of divine love, the soul is filled with great energy that it brings its flesh under control. All the appetites of the flesh it has so much energy and strength to rein them in and to control them. And it does not seek any satisfaction or any consolation in anything else but in God. And it does not even seek satisfaction or consolations from God. It does not seek favors from God. The only concern of the soul is to please God and to serve Him, regardless of the high cost that it might have to bear to bring about this glory of God. The souls in this stage have no self-interest. They have a very elevated love for God. And while the soul doesn't seek favors from God, God grants these souls several spiritual delights. There are very few souls that reach this stage of elevated, pure love for God. On the fifth rung of this mystical ladder of divine love, of secret contemplation, the soul experiences a certain impatient desire and longing for God. The divine union with God, or the desire for this divine union with God, is so intense that the slightest delay when the soul sits down to meditate, if there is any delay, it feels like it's long, it feels annoyed, and it feels it's tiresome to the soul. So there is this experience of impatience. Like the psalmist says, my soul longs and faints for the dwelling places of the Lord. So in this fifth rung, the soul feeds only on God's love alone. And he continues in chapter 22, he explains the remaining 5 rungs of the ladder of secret contemplation, or the mystical ladder of divine love. In the 6th rung of the ladder, the soul runs to God swiftly and experiences God's love and is strengthened. So like the psalmist says, the saints, as a deer thirsts for waters, so my soul desires for you, my God. So like the deer that is thirsty runs swiftly in search of water, so this soul also runs swiftly to God. And on finding water or finding God, it is strengthened. And Isaiah the prophet says, the saints who hope in God shall renew their strength. They shall take wings like the eagle and shall fly and not faint. In the 7th step of the ladder, the soul displays boldness and a daring in asking God for graces and favors, not for themselves, but for others. Example that St. John of the Cross gives is Moses, who asks God to spare the people of Israel, or else to strike his own name out of the book of life in Exodus chapter 32. And the psalmist in chapter 37 of the Psalms says, delight in the Lord and he will grant you your heart's desires. So even in this daring and in this boldness, it is only a response to God himself, who has made known to the soul his divine favor was available to the soul. And God himself has emboldened the soul to ask and seek this favor. In the 8th step, or the 8th rung of this ladder, the soul has found her beloved and will not let him go. So this is where contemplation begins. God and the soul are together, and the soul clings to God and would not let him go. And in Song of Songs, chapter 13, verse 4, we read, I found him whom my heart and soul loves. I held him and did not let him go. This is union of the soul with God. In this step, however, the union is not continuous. It is only experienced for short periods of time. Unless God commands the soul to remain in this step, the soul remains on it only for a short while. And the continuous union is only experienced in the next step. In this step, it is only for a short while. In the 9th step, the soul has this burning love for God. In this step, the union with God is perfect. In this step, the soul itself is so perfected and is filled interiorly with the Holy Spirit, who transforms the soul into itself in divine love. And this, it is gentle, but it is intense. And the soul has reached the heights of contemplation, the heights of union with God possible, while still remaining in the body. So when the Holy Spirit, here John of the Cross speaks of the Pentecost, when the Holy Spirit descended on the apostles visibly on the day of Pentecost, he says that St. Gregory says that they burnt, that is the apostles burnt interiorly and gently with love. That is the work of the Holy Spirit in our soul. In the final step, in the 10th rung of the mystical secret ladder of contemplation and of divine love, the soul leaves the body. The soul is fully immersed in God. The soul becomes like God through participation. The soul experiences the beatific vision of God and only still survives or to live on this earth through God's grace that preserves it. Otherwise, it will die and go to heaven. There are very few souls, usually saints, who experience or who attain this, for they reach God without entering or without going through purgatory, for they have already been purified by the Holy Spirit while still living. And these souls resemble God through participation. This is a final step. This is what we are persevering towards. This is what we are hoping for through our life of prayer. The soul in this stage resembles God through participation. The soul in this step has a clear vision of God interiorly, and it has departed from itself and all the things of this world and has ascended to God and experiences union with God. So with that, we come to the end of chapter 20 of book 2 of The Dark Night. I hope you have a blessed weekend, and I will come back to you in a few days with the next chapters. God bless.